First, they came for the socialists, but I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then, they came for the Jews, but I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then, they came for me, but there was no one left to speak for me. This was how Pastor Martin Niemöller summarized his personal experience during the Nazi takeover of Germany. He learned that those without freedom had to speak for those with freedom. The same principle can be applied to America's history with slavery. In 1852, 9 years before the Civil War, abolition of slavery was considered radical and dangerous, even in the North. During an Independence Day party in New York, Frederick Douglass, an escaped slave who later bought his freedom, gave a bold speech condemning slavery and challenging Americans to live up to the ideals which their country was founded upon. What to the American slave is the 4th of July? Frederick Douglass, 1852.
Fellow citizens, the signers of the Declaration of Independence were brave men. They were statesmen, patriots, heroes. And for the good they did and the principles they contended for, I will unite with you to honor their memory. But, pardon me, are those great principles of natural liberty and political justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? What right have I, or those who I represent, to do with your national independence? Would to God that an affirmative answer could be truthfully returned to these questions. But such is not the state of the case. Fellow citizens, above your national tumultuous joy, I hear the mournful wail of millions, whose chains, rendered heavy and grievous yesterday, are today rendered yet even more intolerable by the Jubilee shouts that reach them. To forget them and to chime in with the popular theme would be a treason most scandalous and shocking. My subject, then, fellow Americans, is American slavery. I shall see this day from the slave's point of view. So what to the American slave, then, is your 4th of July? I answer, it is a day that reveals to him, more than all other days of the year, the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. Now, must I undertake to prove that the slave is a man? That point is conceded already. The slaveholders themselves acknowledge it when they punish disobedience on the part of the slave. Now, would you have me argue that a man is entitled to liberty? There is not a man beneath the canopy of heaven who does not know that slavery is wrong for him. What, am I to argue that it is wrong to rob men of their liberty? To beat them without wages? To beat them with sticks? To flay their flesh with the lash? To sell them at auction and to starve them into obedience? Must I argue that a system thus marked with blood and stained with pollution is wrong? No, I will not. To do so would be to make myself ridiculous, and it would be to offer an insult to your very understanding. For revolting barbarity and shameless hypocrisy, America reigns without a rival. But, notwithstanding the dark picture that I have this day presented of the state of the nation, I do not despair for this country. The doom of slavery is certain. So I therefore leave off right where I began, with hope. While drawing encouragement from the Declaration of Independence and the great principles that it contains, my spirit is cheered. While Americans celebrated their Declaration of Independence, which declared all men free, Douglass challenged Americans to live up to the ideals of the Declaration of Independence by exposing their hypocrisy. Douglass was not alone in this fight. He toured with famous abolitionist William Lloyd Garrison. Garrison, the most outspoken white abolitionist of the time, and Douglass, the most well-known African-American abolitionist of the time, fought together as a powerful civil rights duo. It was at one address to his supporters in New York that William Lloyd Garrison gave a stirring speech asking the abolitionists to speak out against slavery. No compromise with slavery. William Lloyd Garrison, 1854. These are solemn times, my fellow Americans. What then is to be done? I'm a believer in that portion of the Declaration of Independence in which it is set forth that among self-evident truths that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Hence, I am an abolitionist. The abolitionism for which I advocate is as absolute as the law of God and as unyielding as his throne. It admits of no compromise, for every slave is a stolen man, and every slaveholder is a man-stealer. By no compact, no purchase, no bequest, and by no combination of circumstances is slaveholding right or justifiable. While a slave remains in his fetters, the land must have no rest. Whatever sanctions his doom must be pronounced accursed. Or such at least is the verdict of my own soul. On the supposition that I am to be the slave, that my wife is to be sold from me for the most vile of purposes, that my children are to be torn from my arms and sold off like sheep to the market. And who am I but a man? What right have I to be free if another man cannot be? Who or what are my wife and children that they should not be herded off to the market like four-footed beasts? Friends of the slave, the question is not whether by our efforts we can abolish slavery. That results with God. The question is whether or not we will go with the multitude to do evil, to stay silent, to sell our birthright for a mess of pottage, to cease to cry loud and spare not, living or dying, defeated or victorious. Be it ours to exclaim, no compromise with slavery. Liberty for each, liberty for all, liberty forever. Like Garrison and Douglass, we have the choice to speak for freedom. In our country, there has been a movement to silence opposing viewpoints at universities through social media bans, biased news, and political correctness. If we stay silent amidst these violations of free speech, we jeopardize our own freedom. Without freedom of speech, none of our freedoms are safe. So while we have the freedom to speak, let us speak for the freedoms of our other Americans. Because if we fail to speak for others, then others may not be left to speak for us.